Here we go again, Pauline. We just keep going, Pauline, because this is serious. And I think that people need to know. So we look at burning the Parliament door down and then a declaration of war from Lydia herself. In front of all, we look at the Voice, we look at the Uluru Statement, and we look at the sabotage that's going on inside the Prime Minister's office with the Federal Executive Council. We look at the 1971 legislation closing the Prime Minister's office and merging the Prime Minister and Cabinet together, Pauline. So we start to look at a federal executive inside there, and we wonder, offences of sabotage involving a foreign principal with intention as to national security. 82.3. A person commits an offence if a person engages in conduct and the conduct results in damage to public infrastructure. Parliament door is one of these damages to public infrastructure, Pauline, that these Aborigine have caused over the last 40 years. Okay, we get to a serious crux point when that's the Parliament door, okay? And a declaration of war from Lydia after the Parliament door has been burnt down. And Albo entertaining all of this, Pauline, okay? A person intends that the conduct will prejudice Australia's national security. Now, we could point out WEF partnerships, we could point out the World Health Organisation, we could point out a whole bunch of stuff that prejudices Australia's national security, Pauline. We could point out that you've poisoned the population. Okay, that prejudices Australia's national security. Okay, but what we're focusing on right now is the burning of the Parliament door down, the Uluru Statement, the declarations of war by Lydia, are all prejudices to Australia's national security and an advantage to the national security of what could be considered a foreign country if these Aborigine are considered to be not citizens. And then if they are citizens, then what do we call this? Terrorism? Do you see what I'm getting at, Pauline? You've all allowed this to occur. You've all totally allowed this to occur. You've allowed Albo to go and commit acts of sabotage, terrorism and treason in the very office of Prime Minister. And none of you in the Senate have been able to keep this Australian Parliament to account. You're a disgrace, Pauline. You're all children. You're acting like a bunch of children in a war theatre, in an incapable mode. Imprisonment for 25 years, Pauline. These are the circumstances that we're looking at here, is that the acts of burning the Parliament door down see imprisonment for 7 years. And I don't think that happened. We didn't hear of that as a national disgrace. We didn't hear anything of it, did we? We sympathised with a minority population of citizens in this land that committed acts of treason and have allowed the government to commit acts of sabotage going against Australia's national security. And we can prove this by the words of Dutton standing up and saying that Albo is working with war powers inside his office. These are direct, stark accusations that are being put on the table, Pauline, and it's about time you started to address them. Right, we go down this list, 82.4, offence sabotage involving foreign principal, reckless as to national security, offensive sabotage with intention as to national security, offensive sabotage reckless as to national security, offensive introducing vulnerability with intention as to national security, Pauline. A person commits an offence if the person engages in conduct and the conduct has the result that an article or thing or software becomes vulnerable. You're making the Constitution vulnerable by not wording the very specific change to a legal document that you wish to make. This is a very, very stark revelation to all the people. This is a legal document that Albo still has not defined the specific change in words to that document. It's all up in the air, right? You're supposed to vote on something that's all up in the air, right? I, to misuse or impairment. 2, to being accessed or modified by a person not entitled to access or modify it. The article, thing, or software is a part of the public infrastructure. What are you actually attempting to do, Elbow? Right, this is serious stuff when we talk about our national security, not yours. We're talking about the people of the country, while you, as a minority little population inside the parliament, what we would call a faction, go and commit criminal offences against the entire Constitution and the Commonwealth and its people. Governor General, I would suggest you go and discuss the national security with them. Right? This whole Ukraine, NATO, feeding money out the fist of the back door. We're watching it, Governor General. We're all watching it. Okay? These are very suspicious actions when it comes to our Commonwealth of Australia and the standing of these people and the not wanting to give and fist money over to a twisted, unlawful battlefield. Unlawful battlefield, Governor General. And we could stand up in the United Nations and make very specific claims at international law about the things that you have done, Governor General. Right? Now we get to preparing for or planning a sabotage offence. Is the Voice sabotaging the Constitution, Prime Minister? Is your involvement with the Uluru Statement an act of treason on your behalf, Prime Minister? Is involvement with the Uluru Statement planning an act of sabotage against the Constitution, Prime Minister? These are very dark and stark revelations to the people. And I'm really starting to lay these things down for all of you, because we will continue to scroll through the Criminal Code and the Crimes Act and demonstrate to you. It's very clear. We can then start to go through international law and demonstrate your standing at the Australian Imperial Crown and how St Edward's Crown came to administer your land, and they're now committing heinous international war crimes from the offices of the Parliament, Pauline. This is national security, Pauline. This has already been brought up with all of your federal police forces in the past, only to be laughed at, only to have it now sealed on the Supreme Court of New South Wales court record, Pauline. It's coming to a head, Pauline. You need to address this stuff, Pauline. You are attacking our public infrastructure, Pauline. You are stealing our wealth, Pauline. You are manipulating our country, Pauline, and you have been fingered for being terrorists and war criminals in the actions of doing so. These are stark accusations, Pauline, that the country is now starting to stand up to. You committed a Rule 90 and Rule 92 offence inside New South Wales before we even approach COVID. And with the proofs of New South Wales are the proofs that the Governor-General committed a grave, heinous war crime on this land, injecting people with a COVID vaccination. There's no doubts anymore, Pauline. These things have been sealed on the court record already. There is a path forward now. You are criminals at law. This is the bottom line, Pauline. You start to recognise that justices of the Supreme Courts have already agreed. You start to recognise that you are a foreign St Edward's Crown administering this land under Hague Conventions and have gone outside of those conventions and your own Criminal Code 1995, the Crimes Act 1914, the Constitution itself. These are stark and hard revelations to accept, Pauline, but I'm warning you, you will have to accept them. Will have to accept them. They are on the court record. They are facts at law. There is nothing you can do about a fact at law. There is a maxim of law that says, Pauline, a lie cannot become the truth over the passage of time. And that applies to all of you today.